The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondel.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Stage Door Show tonight. This is Dave Hondel. You're listening to us on iHeartRadio and pretty much everywhere you can get your podcast. We have a great guest tonight, down here in South Florida, where we are now recording from in Hollywood, Florida. But I have with me Roosevelt Merisier. How you doing, Roosevelt? Thank you for joining us tonight.
I'm good, my brother. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Roosevelt is a producer, director, and entrepreneur, and I read about his story today, and I had to have him on the show because there's a documentary that Roosevelt directed, produced, and wrote here called Status Symbol, and it's about Joslyn Morgan out of South Philadelphia. And I know he was a mentor of Roosevelt's, and I really wanted you to get into this story because it was fascinating. I saw the trailer, and I can't wait to see the actual documentary, and it's playing on January 23rd at Savor Cinema in Fort Lauderdale here in South Florida at Southeast 6th Street. So how did you meet Joslyn, and really what is the story about?
I met Joslyn through my girlfriend, and she knew him because my girlfriend is from Philadelphia, and she would always tell me about this motivational figure that she knew, and I finally met him. I met him in Orlando about 2.5 years ago. We was actually at a funeral. A gathering. It was like a dinner gathering after the funeral, and we spoke, and she told him about everything that I was doing, and him being the entrepreneur that he was, he just came and got me and asked me, everything that I was doing. He wanted to know, and I shared him everything that we was doing, and then from there, we just grew this great relationship, man. And he became a mentor, and he was just always about teaching and learning, and and making sure that you had all the insight on life. He was such an incredible human being, man, and I'm sad he's no longer here, but I'm glad that I learned everything that I could from him.
But what did Joslyn do for a career?
No, he was a real estate developer, real estate investor for many years in the city of Philadelphia, man. And with his real estate gift and things that he did with real estate, he blessed a lot of families. He took care of homeless people. He put people in homes. He took families out grocery shopping. He was buying back his block that he was born on, and he was just doing so much for the city of Philly, man. And, he got his life taken away by somebody that was close to him, someone that was envious and, was extremely jealous. And, it is sad to say, and, it weighs on my heart a lot, but I just have to tell you guys,
Yeah, and, as far as, creating this documentary, and especially with somebody who was a mentor of yours, how emotional was that to actually create a story around somebody who was a mentor and having to tell that, kind of relive that side of things that, it had to have been tough for you?
Nah, it was definitely tough, man, because at the funeral, you know what I mean? Like, it was so many people at the funeral because he was so loved, because with everything that he did, everything he did was for the better of people. So, his funeral definitely was witness to that. You know what I mean? There was a line around the corner. He supported so many people. He helped so many people. And so when I saw him going down, it was really hurtful. And, I just thought to myself, you know what? This is it's not going to end like this. I have to do something. You know what I mean? I have to tell people about Joslyn Morgan. I have to create a story, because a lot of these stories, when they get swept under the rug, and people never know about these stories. You know what I mean? So I just felt like I had to tell this story. So it was a very emotional process. We shot this in the midst of COVID 2020. Me and my team went out there on 2 different occasions, and when we shot it, we shot it. They shot it in 10 days, actually. We went for the first trip, it was 5 days, and the second trip we went for another 5 days, and we got it out, man. We created something magical, something amazing, something that will inspire the world, something that will, impact change and do a lot for the city of Philadelphia when it comes to gun violence.
And talk about a little bit about Joslyn, and because I know that I want people to go and see this film, but I want people to get a little bit of a taste of who Joslyn was, and through all your interviews that you did for this project, I suppose that we're going to learn everything we could know about him, but talk about him as a person, just so we can get a taste of who he really was.
Yeah, Joslyn was he was an impactful figure. Everything he said, everything he did had purpose, had meaning. You know what I mean? At the very beginning of his life, he went through a lot. You know what I mean? He was young, and he was lost of direction. He was into the drug life when he was younger. You know what I mean? He was obviously he was a drug dealer, and then he got out of that, and you know what I mean? He went to jail for 2 years, and then he got out of jail, and then when he got out of jail, he just figured that it's time for a change. Time to change my lifestyle around, and he really got into real estate. And, he started, fixing homes and things like that. And then from there, he started his own company. And then from there, real estate became a big factor in his life to create wealth and, to create better lives for the people around him. And, that's pretty much, who he was. And, money didn't mean anything to him because he had a lot of it, and he shared it with everybody that needed, help. You know what I mean? He had a big heart. He was a figure that really stood for something tall and stood for everybody in his community. He wanted to see everybody do well. He wanted to see everybody at the top. And, that's about everything I can say about him. That's just the type of individual that he was.
And what about the fact that he was murdered, and what brought that on? I guess how did you find out, first of all, and then second of all, just touch a little bit about how that happened and why it happened.
Yeah, I actually found out. I was actually in the car with my mother, who was actually riding on 95, and I got a phone call from one of his friends, and he called me. He was like, "Yo, did you see Josh's Jeep on the TV on news?" I'm like, "No, I did not." You know what I mean? Josh's supposed to be here this week because he was supposed to be coming down for a screening that I had for a soccer documentary that I did. And I was like, "No, I didn't see nothing." They went ahead and sent me the link. And when I clicked the link, I saw Josh's Jeep. He had just had it customized and everything like that, so I automatically knew it was his Jeep. But I still didn't want to believe that it was him that died, that was in the Jeep. And, I just started calling everybody to confirm, and, I started calling everybody, and everybody was, was panicking, and that's when I kind of knew it was him. And, he got, killed by someone that was, like, relatively close to him, someone that was always around. It was actually his roofer, because Josh, he bought a lot of real estate property. He was doing a lot in real estate, and the guy that that took his life was a roofer, and he would Josh would make sure he'd take care of him to fix all of his roofs and things like that. And I guess when you have someone that's really close to you and someone that's extremely envious of your life, sometimes they tend to take your life away because of all of the glamour that your life comes with. And, it was definitely a hurtful process, man. I'm still dealing with it today. But at the same time, I'm glad that I get to, put the story out and tell his story so people really know the type of individual that Josh was.
What was it like talking to the family members? That had been emotional as well. But, how did the family react to your documentary?
They actually haven't seen it yet, but the whole process of pre-production and everything, flying out, because I went to Philadelphia on three different occasions just to sit down with family and friends, just to get some insight on Josh and get some insight on who Josh was as an individual, just to feel them out so I know how to attack them and relate in the interviews and know how to speak with them. And it was definitely an amazing feeling. At the same time, it was sad, but it was great getting to know Josh even more through his family and friends and things like that. And it was very, very emotional, man. And And when we actually started production, man, everybody was ready because, I went over there and did pre-production and pre-planned and made sure everything was solid and on point. And like I said, it was happy, but it was difficult. But at the same time, it was very happy. I was very happy to get this story done because this is, the family needed this, and the world actually needs to see this whole thing. So I'm very excited to share this story.
Do you feel it's in a way a little bit of a closure for the family and yourself to tell this story and to watch it being screened?
Definitely, closure because he has two autistic boys, and having autistic kids is just it's just different, man. And with the proceedings of the sales of all his documentaries going towards his boys as well, so it was definitely something that had to be put out, and it's definitely something that the family's definitely going to enjoy for closure, and it's definitely going to be something that they can always watch, so they can see step by step, Josh's life and what he did and how he became the figure that he was.
Well, it's on January 23rd at Savor Cinema in Fort Lauderdale, again, Southeast 6th Street. So, where can people find tickets, and how do they reserve a spot to go see it?
Oh, they can buy on Eventbrite. They can look up status symbol on Eventbrite. As soon as you put in status symbol, you'll find the documentary. Go ahead and click and purchase your tickets. All proceedings go towards Josh's kids. And, it's going to be a great night of, it's going to be a great night. It's going to be an impactful night. There's going to be, one-on-one interviews with family and friends. And, it's going to be one hell of a night. We're going to show we're actually going to show like a pre-film before the actual documentary film. It's going to be closing speeches, opening speeches. It's just going to be so much. It's going to be it's going to be an event. You know what I mean? It's not just going to be a screening. It's going to be more than a screening. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to whoever come out and enjoy the show. It's going to be something that, you're not going to regret coming to.
What are your plans for the documentary after this screening? I mean, are you going to be entering it in further film festivals and try to maybe get it onto Netflix, or what are your plans?
Yeah, of course. Because the work that we put into this, documentary was, it was like a year and a half. We put a year and a half of work into it when it came to, the editing, audio, just making sure we had all of the right information to put into this documentary. So my plan is to, put it in film festivals, Tribeca, Sundance, and a lot of local film festivals all over the world, and also get, see if we can get some distribution deals on it as well, just to make sure that, his family and his kids are well taken care of off of his name and everything that he's done.
Talk about, you've had a lot of success with some other films that you've done in the past, around the country and some film festivals. So talk about some of those films and where we may have seen them.
Yeah, actually, one of my biggest documentaries, I did a documentary called a soccer star, Hopeful. He passed away in about 2017. He was a soccer star, and that documentary was, I had a screening for it. I won a couple film festivals for it. And you can actually see that on YouTube. And he passed away right before his soccer season. When his team went on to win the state championship that year in honor of him. And he was a very, very spiritual human being, very spiritual child. And he actually knew that he was going to pass away, and he knew that his team was going to win the state championship that year. And, his mother actually says that in the interviews. And it was a very, very, powerful documentary. And, you can find that on YouTube. And I also have a documentary entitled The Untold Story of Wesley Cardet. He's actually a D1 college basketball player, right now, and I did a documentary on him while he was in high school at Northeast High School. And he's actually doing very well in college right now. He's a star player, and he's getting ready to go to the NBA. So that's definitely something that you guys should watch. So you guys get to know who he is when he makes it to the NBA. So that's another one. And I've done a lot of projects. I've done a lot, man, and I'm very, very happy and very excited, to have, all my work out there and have people actually view it and watch it and like it and comment on it and actually share it with other people. I'm excited.
Well, and when I was reading about your story, a lot of things that we do here on the Stage Door Show, I mean, we're really committed to celebrating the independent artists, and this is something that I know that you've done in your work, is trying to help other creative people in the communities and being really a community activist. So talk about that a little bit, because I know most of my listeners are independent artists, and always looking for an inspirational word from other artists like yourself that have had success. And so what kind of inspiration can you give our listeners on the iHeart Show here?
Yeah, but I take pride on just uplifting other artists, man. I love it, because I do a comedy show, FNO Showtime Comedy, which has been around for 3 years, man. I've been doing that. I give comedy, get on and tell jokes, and just have a platform for them to speak to an audience, man, that really, really, come out to enjoy comedy. And it's been a great asset to my life and a great asset to the comedians that come out to my show. And I also do a Thursday night show. It's called FNO Soul Nights. This one is actually I actually dedicate that night to live musicians, poets, clarinet players. And, they come out and they perform, and I always have a nice crowd, you know what I mean, to entice and make sure the vibe is right. So, but my thing is, and, when me creating these things, I'm creating things that come straight from my heart and, things that are built off of, strictly passion. And, I truly enjoy it. And, my thing for creators and everybody that really want to get into that life, my suggestion to you guys is to just continue to, to live, throughout your passions. Continue to be passionate about everything that you guys do. Continue to put out great work. Continue to find different avenues that help you guys make it to the next level, such as public relations and things like that, and that'll really help you out a lot when it comes to, taking your career to the next level. So that's some of the things that, I have in mind that will help, indie artists and things like that.
I think some people think you have to have a major studio backing, or you have to have, management teams and a lot of that to back you up and to be successful. But that's really not the case anymore, right? I mean, there's a lot of social media. There's a lot of avenues that you can really create your own success, right?
That's right. Yeah, we live in the social media world, man. That's it really doesn't matter. Like, you can post something and it just automatically just blows up, or you can, like I said, reach out to a public relations artist that can help you get your company and your artistry out there by just helping you write an article and publishing the article on a well-known site, and from there things change. It's just all about how you are to your passion and your dreams. You know what I mean? So yeah, at the end of the day, like, that's what it comes down to. How driven are you? How purposeful are you? How serious are you about your vision? You know what I mean? That's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
What are some of your influences? I mean, who were you looking up to when you were growing up, and what kind of inspired you, I guess, to be a filmmaker?
Spike Lee. Spike Lee was always a big figure of mine, because I used to always watch his films, Do the Right Thing. Eddie Murphy was I was a big fan of Eddie Murphy, still a big fan. Boomerang, when I seen Boomerang for the first time, that was an amazing experience for me. Ice Cube, Friday was that was a classic, man. That was something that I watched. I must have watched Friday over a million times. And Bernie Mac, when it comes to comedy, and Bernie Mac, played a big role in my life when it came to that. And that's why I created a comedy show, because of Bernie Mac. And the rapper Nas, he's also a big influence in my life when it comes to my show, when it comes to my soul nights, when it comes to soul rap music and things like that, and poetry. So those are some big influences in my life, and actually my mother. So yeah, I have a couple influences, but those influences mean a lot to my life.
One of the things that I always ask every guest at the end of the show is when it's all said and done, years down the road, when you've done all the projects that you feel that you wanted to make, the message you wanted to give out there, what do you want your legacy to be when it's all said and done? When you look back at your fans and all the people that see your work, I mean, what's your main message that you want to get across?
Yeah, my main message is, FNO, failure is no option, you know what I mean? Because that's always been, a thing in my life, because I come from a third world country. I was born and raised in Nassau, Bahamas, you know what I mean? I've seen the worst of times, and I migrated to the U.S. in 2002. And, as soon as I came here, my whole life, changed around because I was accessible to, the United States, you know what I mean? There's so many, so much opportunities here. And, I was thankful, that my mother brought me over here to be able to give me the opportunity of a lifetime to be able to become what I am today. And, failure is no option. That's always been for me in my life and, where I come from to where I am now. And, I've been through the worst of times and I've been through the best of times. But, me being here in the United States, it plays a big role in my life because, it's been a journey, you know what I mean? Because, coming from a third world country, it's very, very hard. Very, very hard to make it out and to actually make it out and be in another place, being successful and doing successful things and being a filmmaker. These are things that I could only dream of, if I still, lived in the Bahamas, So I'm very thankful for that. And, failure is no option. That's my slogan. That's what drives me every day, every time I wake up. And, that's my message and that's my slogan, and that's what I want to share with the people.
Status Symbol is the documentary. It's about Joslyn Morgan, and it's on January 23rd at Savor Cinema in Fort Lauderdale on Southeast 6th Street. So again, let's tell everybody how they can get tickets one more time before we go away here.
Now you get tickets on Eventbrite. You can type in Status Symbol. You'll find a documentary. Be able to purchase your tickets from there. Once you get your tickets, you can come out to the documentary screening. We have a red carpet screening. We're going to have cameras everywhere. It's going to be a sold-out event. It's going to be so many people from so many different places. Josh knew so many people because of the figure that he was. There's going to be people flying in from L.A., from New York, Philadelphia, Florida. It's going to be a bunch of people in attendance, man. I look forward to it, and I look forward to everybody that's going to be attending, man. I'm so happy about this. And, I also want to tell indie filmmakers, something. It's always great to, take a chance and, take a risk on things that you love to do. Don't be afraid of anything. If you have a film and you believe in your film and you're excited about your film, just book a theater, you know what I mean? Show a screening, invite some people out. Don't be afraid if 10 people come out, 15 people come out. Just as long as you did it, it'll feel good. You know what I mean? As long as you know that you tried, it's a good feeling, you know what I mean? So that's what I want to tell my indie filmmakers, man. Just don't be afraid to take that risk.
Great message and well said. Roosevelt Merisier, appreciate it, man, for being on the show tonight. Producer, director, and entrepreneur. And let's get out to that cinema and let's watch this documentary and support this guy and the story. And again, I think you have a lot of big things in the future, man. So thanks again for coming on the show.
Of course.
All the best to you.
All right, man. Thank you.